Welcome, everyone, to today's webinar, Exploring Career Opportunities with biotech-careers.org. I'm pleased to introduce our presenter today. Sandra Porter, PhD, is co-PI of BioLink. She also works in her own organization called Digital World Biology, LLC. Sandy, I know you've had a lot of experience. You've worked at a community college, at Shoreline Community College and other places. How did you get into this whole biotechnology thing? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, any of you who teach are going to find this really funny because I was a postdoc and I had a 2-year-old and a crazy advisor, and I was trying to figure out what a good path would be. I really was interested in teaching, but I didn't really know like what lab to be in or where I wanted to be. And I was really frustrated with trying to be in two places at the same time, trying to be in the lab on weekends or be home on weekends and do it all at the same time. And so one day I was talking with another postdoc about wanting to have a vacation. And she was talking about how wonderful it is in France because they have 5 weeks of vacation every year. And I said, oh, wow, wouldn't that be wonderful if you could have a job where you could get the summers off? And I can imagine the laughter right now from anybody who teaches because my vision was, oh, wow, I could teach high school or college and I could have the summers off, which hasn't really turned out to be true, but that's how I started doing it. So I went to a community college nearby. I called them up and said, do you have any teaching jobs? And they said, yeah, we need somebody right now, next month. And so I ended up jumping right from my postdoc into teaching microbiology uh, almost full time at Seattle Central Community College and ended up staying there for about 10 years. During that time, I became part of BioLink, left my community college, went to a software company for 10 years, and then about 8 years ago, left the software company and started my own company. But I've still been connected with BioLink ever since its inception.
I think we like your perspective on community colleges. You really know them, having been involved with them for so long. So thanks for that intro. Go ahead then, Sandy.
All right. Well, what I'm going to talk about today are ways that you can use the biotechcareers.org website, how to get the most out of it in searching for jobs or searching for information about careers or job areas, some case studies that we have from instructors and teachers that use the site in their classrooms, and then talk about where we're going to go with the site and new features that we're going to be adding to it. So before we get started, do we have the poll side slide set up, Mike?
Just 1 second, Sandy. I'll go ahead and launch that first poll. There we go.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I'd like to know a little bit about your background. So if you could take a moment and answer here.
It's an interesting mix, Sandy, of predominantly instructors at two-year colleges, but also a bunch of administrators. That's not too surprising, right? Because all of us are interested in how to make connections for our students into the workforce. And I'm pleased that we have some students with us too.
No, this is great. Well, we should have some good information for you, I think. Okay, let's continue on. I have a couple more polling questions before we jump into the meat of the seminar. I'd like to know, for those of you that are teaching, are you using career exploration in your classes?
Responses all over the map. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Well,
so
that's great to see. And I'm hoping some of you that are using these techniques in your classes will share some of the information or strategies that you use later on in the talk. Okay, let's go on. I have one more question and then we'll get going with other things.
Just one
Okay.
second, Sandy. I'll get poll number 3 there. Just one
Okay.
second.
Thanks.
Okay, there we go. Have you ever
Okay.
used biotechcareers.org? Wait, is that
Oh,
the right
wow.
one?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
I'm interested in that because if you've used it, then you might be happy to see some of the changes we're going to make, and I'm looking for your advice on what you'd like improved or what you like existing, so that we make sure we don't we don't change that or lose it. Okay, well, good. So we've got a wide variety. All right, so let's continue on. Well, the site I'm going to talk about today, biotechcareers.org, was built and conceived by BioLink, which I'll describe what BioLink is in just a minute. But BioLink works to network community colleges across the country so they can share information about workforce-oriented bioscience and biotechnology training programs, and help these programs share information about what industry wants, what the new techniques are coming online, how to teach those techniques, curriculum, uh, different teaching styles, what students want, recruiting students. So anything you can imagine that might help an educational program do the best job they can to prepare students for a lifelong position in the biotechnology, bioscience workforce. But like any organization, you build a website, and websites can get really big. And sometimes we want to make it for everybody, but sometimes it's better if you have a website that's focused on a more specific thing. So we realized that if we were going to do something for students and our alumni, it might be better to have a separate place where they could find career information. Part of this, the reason we built this site, is that we were getting a lot of requests for career information from colleges, from students. And when we looked online at sites that existed, what we found was that there were some great resources out there. Genome.gov has one, Bio has some, but a lot of the places we could find online made it look like to have any kind of career in biotechnology was going to take a long time. A lot of the jobs that they described were PhD level jobs that we or it takes years to finish that. And we wanted something that we wanted information that students could see, where they could realize that you could actually get a job in the biotech industry just out of even right out of high school. So we wanted to make sure that we represented positions that were available to high school students, that had a more workforce oriented approach, that weren't just positions at a university and weren't positions that were going to take 10 years before they could enter. So that's why we built the site. Um, the site has had contributions from a few different groups. The main contributor and sponsor is BioLink, obviously. And BioLink is a National Advanced Technology Center of Excellence in Biotechnology that is funded by the National Science Foundation Advanced Technology Education Program, which is a wonderful program providing technical education and research in technical education and help in developing technical curriculum to colleges all over the country. Two other organizations that have participated in this. One is the new Austin BioLink Regional Center, and ac2.biolink.org is their website. Austin is helping with funding an upgrade to the site and helping us add new features. And we have also had some help and funding from the Northeast Biomanufacturing Consortium, NBC2. And a lot of this has been through a writer named John Grady, who helped with writing some of the job descriptions. Before I go on, I want to just recognize some of the other contributors and members of BioLink. Our fearless leader, the PI on the grant and executive director, is Dr. Elaine Johnson, and she has been inspirational in all of this project. We've also had help from Lisa Seidman, who's helped with the terms that I'll show you a little bit later, with Jeanette Mowry, with Linnea Fletcher, who's worked on writing some of the job descriptions. And then we've had some other writers participating in the site. Myself, Sean Maiden, who is a bioinformatics analyst at Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center, Dina Kovaric, who teaches at Shoreline Community College, and we have to give a lot of credit too for some of the organization and material in the site. We used a lot of the framework from a book called Careers in Biotechnology that was written by Gina Freeman Hunt and Julie Sahlberg, who were at American River College in California. And that was a project directed by the former Jeffrey O'Neill. So there's been a lot of people involved. Okay, so what are you going to find when you go to the site? We have a lot of different things that are related to careers. We have descriptions, we have search tools. Oh, yeah, I can post the book. I'll get that a little bit later on. We have internships, we have photo diaries where we interview our alumni, we have lots of videos, we have help with learning terms, and as I mentioned before, search tools by different kinds of ways you might search. Linnea says students are always want to know, what does it pay? So we have search tools that go by salary, by education, and by job area. The two major ways that we break down and organize information on the site are by careers and by job area. And when I say careers, what we've done is we've taken a lot of the common careers that are open to people from ranging from high school graduates to people with bachelor's degrees. And we have described these careers and gathered together information about these careers using as much as possible the same titles for the careers that you would find if you were doing a job search. So what we're trying to do here is to demystify what the careers are, because I have to admit, a lot of jobs and job titles in biotechnology are really, really obscure and really not very easy to decipher unless you've been around the field. Like, I don't think many people could tell me what a clinical research associate does, but those are the people that go out to the houses of people who are participating in clinical trials, and they gather data about what's happened if they've taken this drug and make sure that they actually took the drug and what the results were. And they're really important in helping translate the new discoveries that are made in the field of healthcare and medicine to drugs that patients can get prescribed by their doctors. Some other really kind of confusing jobs. There are job titles like process development technician. What would that be? That's really kind of complicated if you haven't been around the area. Validation specialist or quality assurance specialist or quality control. And what's the difference between quality control and quality assurance? And then manufacturing. I think when a lot of people think manufacturing, or students or people who aren't familiar with this, they might think of somebody working at Ford Motor Plant in Detroit putting cars together. But pharmaceutical manufacturing, biotech manufacturing is very different. It can range all the way from making beer or making yogurt to people who are doing really, really highly technical specialized work with purifying proteins like antibodies or purifying materials to use as drugs or materials that you might use in making blue jeans blue or something. So we go through and we try to write in clear language and demystify the careers and explain what they are. Now, sometimes if you're looking for a job, you might not know exactly what career you want. You might not know, I want to be a process development associate. But what you might know is that you're really interested in nutrition, for example, or food. Maybe you really want to know more about jobs in molecular gastronomy and these interesting things that chefs are doing. Or maybe you want to know more, or you really like animals, or you really like immunology. So the other way that we tried to organize careers is to group them, group those careers by kind of the area, like genomics or nutrition or conservation biology, and then find careers that would fit. So when you come to the site and you navigate beyond the front page, what you'll see are two different groupings, groups by job areas and groups by biotechnology careers. And we've got about 31 different career titles in here, so there's a lot of different things to look at. In the job areas, we've organized these by using a technique called a word cloud. A word cloud represents the numbers of items that we have that are related to those careers by the size of the word. And if you were to click any of the items in the word cloud, let me just find my arrows here. If you were to click any of the items in the word cloud, there we go. You would, if I click cosmetics, for example, I would get a page that listed all the items that we have on the site that are related to the area of cosmetics. If I were to click genomics, I would find all the items on the site that are related to genomics. And you can see that we have a lot of material, most of the materials on our site, or there's the topics that are represented in the greatest numbers on our site are biomanufacturing, biopharmaceuticals, biotechnology, the environment, genomics, molecular biology, and quality control. So very, very popular techniques and areas in biotechnology overall. So at this point, Mike, I'd like to ask if did you have any questions?
Sandy, there was a couple that came in by email. You mentioned both, let's call it the biotechnology R&D side and the manufacturing side. So here's the question that came in. One instructor reaches out to high school parents, and she says, if a parent asks me, should I encourage my student to go into biomanufacturing or more the R&D side, the research technician, what do you think the greater opportunity is there? How would you advise her?
Well, I think a lot of that has got to do with what what the student really likes. I mean, research is fun and interesting, but it can also be really boring and it can also be really frustrating. You can be working with things that you don't have an answer and you might not be comfortable within that kind of environment and in thinking about what kind of experiments or what sorts of things you might test next. Okay, so you might be in a lab doing the same technique day after day, and then all of a sudden your company might say, well, sorry, but it looks like there really isn't a market for this. We're just going to pull this product. Or you might be in a university and it's hard. It's fun, but it can be really hard. Where I think biomanufacturing, if it's a lot less uncertain, and you know if you're working in biomanufacturing that what you're making, well, I should qualify that a little bit. Depending on where the drug is or where the substance is that you're working on, you can it's more predictable. You can predict your day, you can plan what you're going to do, you're going to know that you might have time for lunch. For research, you might not. You're going to know how the thing that you're working on translates to the greater world. For example, let's say I'm a technician and I'm making a drug called Enbrel. Okay, Enbrel is a drug that's used to treat rheumatoid arthritis. So I know then that if I'm producing that, I have a certain pride in my work because I'm seeing pictures of patients that take Enbrel. I know people that are taking it. I know that what I'm doing is actually going out there and being used and is an important substance that benefits society. Research, something might benefit, it might not. And it's not always very clear where you are in the scheme of things. So what other questions did you have?
It was a very thoughtful answer. You know, also one of our colleagues in the chat window opined that the locale makes a difference too, right? So you may be in an area that has a lot of opportunities for manufacturing or biomanufacturing, or one that doesn't. So obviously that's a good, I hadn't thought of that, but I think having the locale on top of that is a good one too. There's another one, and you may address this later, so I'll leave it up to you whether you want to handle this question now or later. How do you reach out to employers to get them to post? You've got a lot of employer information there. You want to take that one now, or do you want to wait until you get into that section?
Yeah, we connect with employers in a lot of different ways. One thing that we're able to do is, because a lot of the biotechnology programs have advisory boards, we're able to connect with those advisory boards and get feedback from people at companies in that way. Another thing that we do with our advisory boards is many times we encourage our graduates who've gone out and gotten jobs to be on those advisory boards, because they know what it's like to be in the program, they know what it's like to be working in industry, and they can help us tell us, oh, no, people aren't really doing that anymore. They don't use that technique. We don't do that. And, oh, no, you should really get this machine, or you should really start using this piece of software. So we get a lot of feedback that way. Uh, Another way, sometimes people from companies contact us as well. So we get information from that area. And there are people from industry who belong to BioLink and who don't hesitate to write and share information. Well, let's see. There's another way. We have had some of our partners have had more directed ways of getting information from industry. I know Dr. Sonia Wallman has held workshops where she gets industry to come in and validate the skill standards that she's been describing. And I know Dr. Jeanette Maury has been part of a project as well through a Department of Labor grant working on a related area, a coordinated area.
Thanks, Sandy. Why don't you go ahead and take us into your next slide, and we'll have another question break in a few minutes.
Okay. Okay, so now what I want to get into, and this is the part that should really, I hope, interest the students, is exactly how do you use the site to find a job? How do you find information about your career and go get a job? So on the first page, we have three kinds of search tools. You can either search by education level, which we intentionally picked as high school, 2-year degree, and bachelor's degree. You can search by job area, which I described some of those things a little bit before, and by starting salary. So if I were to pick one of those areas and then I click the Go button, I'll get a list of careers that match that description. And in this case, I picked high school, so I have a list of careers that match somebody with a high school degree. And I can drill down farther by clicking the title. And you can see here I picked animal technician. And if I'm looking at animal technician, then I can see a little bit about what an animal technician might do. I can see, I'm having trouble with that pointer. Well, we'll ignore that for now. I can see what an animal technician might do. I have a kind of a short description of the career to see what kinds of animals they might work with. At the bottom, I have links to job areas that are related, like animal biotechnology or aquaculture. I have, in this area here from the pros, those are videos that are related to this job, and lower down that you can't see on this page, we've got links to interviews from students who might be working in this job, if we have that information. There are a couple other tabs on these career pages that I'm going to go into now. If I click the Education and Training tab, what I will see is I will get a description about the minimum education for this type of position. I can see here, of course, I picked by high school, so you can see that we've got a high school degree as the minimum. But you can see we also list that there might be other certificates or other degrees that might be helpful for a person who's in this job. And they might want to get those degrees or certificates later on once they've started, because those could be part of their career pathway and could lead to career advancement. We also have links down at the bottom with degrees and certificates that take you exactly to the programs in the BioLink programs in the United States that offer those degrees and certificates. So if you're interested in animal laboratory technology, you can see that you could attend Alamance Community College or Mouse Bay Community College, and you could get a degree in this area. And if you were, what I didn't mention too, is that this is taking you actually straight to the BioLink site. So the two sites are interconnected. And there are some icons at the bottom of the page by the community college names that tell you what kind of educational credential that they offer. So in this case, both of these colleges offer associate's degrees, but there are some community colleges that offer post-baccalaureate degrees. Sometimes they have certificates, sometimes they have one-year degrees, associate's degrees. So there's a lot of different options, and we would have all of those listed there that you could find on that site. The third tab concerns job searching tools. And what we did was to go to 3 of the major job search aggregators, Indeed.com, Monster.com, and SimplyHire.com, and we searched for these types of jobs. And then we saved the queries that we made and put those into the links. So sometimes when you're searching for a job, or even a Google search for anything, sometimes the hardest thing is to know what words to use. And so we thought by making the queries and testing them, it's a quick way to get in and see, all right, what are people using? What do they find? And we find, you might think they have the same thing, but actually the 3 different places have different kinds of information, which is why we kept all 3. So you can see here, Indeed.com, if I were to click that link and I get the Indeed page, and I get all the things that meet the search term, which you can see up at the top, it says animal technician. I can get all of the careers that are classified as an animal technician. And you can see where they are in the country. You can see whether there's other filters on the side that'll show you if they're full-time, part-time, what they pay, the salary estimate, which is, a lot of information right there. So you get an idea, are there jobs? Where are the jobs? How much do they pay? And you can do that from any career on the site. So I'm curious, those of you that have seen the site, how many of you have had your students try out the job search tools?
Well, Sandy, we're not too familiar with it right now, but a lot of people say I may do this in the future.
Yeah, I think one of the drawbacks we had is it probably wasn't the best idea for us in retrospect to make those tabs. And on the next site, oops, I don't know how to get rid of the poll here.
Oh, I'll close that. Just a second.
Okay.
Okay, there you go.
Thanks, Mike.
Sure.
In retrospect, that maybe we were too fancy for our own good with putting the 3 tabs there. We're actually, in the next iteration of the site, we're going to have those 3 features together on the same page to make that a little bit easier to find. All right, so we've talked about finding career information, finding information about careers in different kinds of areas, how to use some of those tools. Now I want to take a moment and talk about three of the really popular features on the site, which are videos, video careers, student interviews, which we call job photo journals, and a tool that we call Learn the Lingo. So for videos, we have about 62 different videos on the site. These, I should mention, these are not videos that we made. We don't have a lot of manpower, but we can search the internet. So what we've done is we've found videos that we feel represent the different careers well, and we've written to people and gotten permission to embed the videos on our site. Many of the videos, by the way, were produced by ATE TV, which is a group that is also funded by the National Science Foundation through the Advanced Technology Education Program. And they've done a really phenomenal job of finding people in industry and interviewing them on the work site and finding out what students do and what people are doing in different kinds of jobs to try to give a good picture of what that job might be like. There will be, I forgot, I should have put this on my slide, but BioLink is participating, working with Pellet Productions and ATE TV, I believe, to produce an interactive movie that's going to be really exciting. We'll have some information on the site about that a little bit later. Okay, so if you come to the video page, you can look for videos by job area, or you can scroll down and see all the videos. And in each case, what we've done, as I said, we've tried to find videos that represent different kinds of biotech careers. So under agricultural biotechnology, for example, you could see there's a video about somebody making fish vaccines. You could see an interview with a student at Utah State University. That was through a project at a museum called the Leonardo, and they gave us permission to use their videos, which are great. You can learn about aquaculture, and there's all kinds of different videos about different areas. And it's sort of nice to see, okay, who works in these areas, what are they like, what are the sites like, are they all in some kind of sterile lab environment? You can see a lot of these people are outside gathering samples and doing things. And it's helpful to, you get an idea that yes, these are real jobs, real people working in real jobs.
Sandy, let me interrupt for a second. Any question came in the chat, which I think is apropos. Do any student interns or maybe alumni submit videos to this site, or how did you got any student things there? That would be interesting.
No, not really. BioLink did have a contest once to see if students wanted to make videos about biotech jobs or careers in biotech, but we didn't get that many submissions, and it didn't really work that well. So not yet, but we would certainly be interested in reviewing them and definitely be interested in seeing them.
I could just see us requiring that, well, sort of suggesting it as part of an internship that they do a 2-minute video on their experience. That could be interesting.
That would be neat, I think.
Yeah.
Some of it's a little bit tricky because of companies aren't
Sure.
always keen about being filmed.
Sure.
So there's some restrictions in that area, but yeah, that would be interesting to see.
Okay, thanks for the interruption. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do have one point to add about that. I know that there are colleges that do things that they call virtual field trips, where if they've had students visit a place, or they have a film of a company or part of a company, and they use that as kind of a field trip. We would be interested in knowing about more of those. So I think that would be interesting to include too. Okay, so actually I'm going to back up for a minute. Another thing I want to mention here is our Learn the Lingo section. Now this is an area that's not that well used on the site, but I think it could be really helpful for students. Biotech is nothing if not rich in acronyms. There are so many strange words and confusing terms that nobody else uses in any area of real life. For example, GMP, SOP, QA, OSHA, uh, all kinds of things. And then CGMPs. I had one student that started in my lab and said, oh yeah, what's cyclic guanine monophosphate? That's a controller in the Krebs cycle. I said, no, not in this case. You might know a lot about science, but in biotech, it's something else. So Lisa Seidman had put together some really great definitions for biotech terms for a book that she wrote on biotechnology. So we worked with Lisa to make a flashcard set through a plugin from a company called Quizlet. And what this does is students can, for free, just click the Learn the Lingo link, and they go to our flashcards that we have. So for example, here at GMP, they can click that to flip it, and I just put both of the cards here on that page. They can click it to flip it. They can see what the definition is. They can go back and forth. There's a little a sound thing that they could use, so they could use that to hear the terms pronounced, which is sometimes kind of helpful. They can star things if they want to test themselves and come back. And there's even different study modes, so they can play like Space Invaders and try to click terms and define terms really quickly. There's about 31 different terms, and if you were a student who was researching a job and trying to find out about, what are these things? What does it mean if a company says they require GMPs, current knowledge of current CGMPs? You could go here and go, oh, GMPs, it means that they're asking that I know something about good manufacturing practices. And if you were going to go for a job interview, you could test yourself so that you could know that you were able to speak knowledgeably about these terms that are going to come at you before you hear them as an interview question. A little bit less stressful, I think. Okay, so we've got career videos, we've got tools to help students learn how to learn all the words and learn what they mean. I think my favorite part of the site actually are the photo journals. And while these aren't videos, what they are is they are interviews from our students. So we have about 17 of these. And what we're always trying to recruit, okay, so if you know students who've graduated from a biotech program, I'll get you, my contact information will show up later on in the talk. I do want to, if you know students who'd be interested in this, we do want as many students as we can get sharing their information. So what did we do here? We have about 17, as I said, about 17 students. We list the job area they work in, we give their career title, and we interview them to find out what do they like about their jobs, how did they get their jobs, what pathway did they take to arrive at their jobs, and what are they doing on the job? What is their day like? So while it's not a video, but you can still see information about what the students are and what they're up to during the day. So we have pictures of them on the job. Here is, some of these are my students who have graduated from Shoreline. This is Dmitry Zhervinsky, and he emigrated from Russia. He was really interested in science, but sometimes when you emigrate to the United States, no matter what you've done in another country, people in the United States don't believe that you know anything. So a lot of students who are interested in science and have a science background will come to a community college because going through a program at a community college gives them a little bit of validation that yes, they know something, and it helps them use their instructor's connections to get a position in the workforce. Well, Dmitry works in a company doing protein purification that's used to solve structures by X-ray crystallography. Here in the middle is a student, Mona Easterling, who is at Tulsa Community College in Oklahoma. And Mona is a Native American student who is also very involved in a group called SACNAS, which really helps students from Hispanic and Native American backgrounds and helps them work in science and address things that are unique to different cultures with challenges with working in a science career. And she is a great outreach representative. She teaches classes and went through the biotechnology program at Tulsa Community College. Here we have Cagney Coomer. Cagney is like a lot of our students. She went to a four-year college, I think University of Virginia, got a degree in biology, and then realized that that wasn't enough to get a job. And so she attended Bluegrass Community and Technical College and learned how to sequence DNA, and now she's working in a DNA sequencing lab at the University of Kentucky. And here we have Severin Benkin, who manages the cell culture lab at Fred Hutch. We have Veronica Benitez, who was a wastewater analyst in this picture, but now is working for the Joint Bioenergy Institute in California. So there's all kinds of stories. We did this, I should say, to a large part because we kind of suspect that one of the challenges with getting students into STEM careers is that there is a common perception that if you're going to work in a science career, that you're going to need to go to school for most of your life. That you're going to need to get a bachelor's degree, then you're going to need to get a master's degree and maybe a PhD on top of that, and it could be 10 years before you actually start working and earning money. And we think, although we don't have proof for this, that perception might be a big deterrent for students. And so we kind of see this as a social equity issue, that it's really important for students to know that there are jobs. Sometimes you can get jobs and the companies will pay you to continue on with those jobs and get advanced education and additional degrees and certificates, and that it might not take forever to be able to, with a 2-year degree, you can do pretty well to get there and get out working. We also wanted to show students that these are not all old white men, that they're young, they're people that look just like them, that the people working in biotechnology are actually pretty diverse and pretty representative of the American population, that there will be people like them. They're not going to be isolated, they're not going to be unusual, and that they will fit in. So we're really glad to have the opportunity to tell our students stories. So when you go to one of these interviews and read about a student, we had them get a few pictures of them on the job so you can see what they're doing and what they work with. We have a little bit of their background. We have information about the biotechnology program that they attended. We have information about the degree or certificate that they completed at that program, what they do on their job, some techniques, what an average day is like. And then we ask them about advice, because sometimes as an instructor you can say things many times over and over again, but whatever you would like to say is more believable when it comes from another student. So we like to hear what they have to say. And if there's anything that we didn't think to ask them but they want to add, we ask them for that as well. Now, I'd like to point out here we do ask all information about all the degrees or certificates they have. Many of our students get a bachelor's degree before they come to community college, so we want to represent that as well. They might get multiple degrees, they might get certificates that they complete to add on to others. So we want to give a good representation of what they've finished. So as I mentioned before, we are always looking for more students to help us and give us interviews. We do ask that they have graduated from a BioLink program. We do ask them and their employers to sign a photo release, because this is a good thing for the employers, but not all companies are comfortable with photos being on the web, so we want to make sure that everybody is aware of it. We will pay students for this, and if you know students who want to do this, have them contact me, Sandy at biolink.org, and that information will be available in the uh, PowerPoints that come out later on after the talk and available on our site as well. So Mike, I'd like to stop now and see if there's any questions.
I'm going to fling a bunch of questions at
Great.
you, Sandy. We've got a number of them there. You mentioned you're going to pay, and you've got $2 signs there. That's more than $1 sign. Uh, Realistically, what could you offer a student to be part of this? I think it's a good idea, by the way.
$200.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
bad.
it's their, we value their time. We know it
Yeah,
is an effort for them to get the photos and get the photo releases signed and get all that stuff uploaded and sent back to us. So we want to show them we value that work.
I like it. That helps me benchmark that. I'd like to do something like that here with our students in advanced manufacturing. I think that could work. So thank you.
Yes, I think a
Sandy,
lot of
there's,
them
yeah,
also. Could I add? I'm sorry, if I add one
yeah,
more thing. I think I know a lot of them also really appreciate the opportunity to give back. I mean, they know what it was like for them looking for something and trying to figure out what they wanted to do. And they understand that by appearing, working with us and being on the site, they contribute to their other students and help other students realize that, yeah, they can do it. They can be part of this industry.
mm, I like that. There's so much information here on the site, and it's relatively new. What sort of interest have you had? I mean, have you done any Google Analytics? What sort of visits do you get? How do you gauge your interest, and what's it been like?
Yeah, we use Google Analytics. We also use a program called Stat Counter. It's a nice service that tells us, what's happening on any given day. Um, Traffic has been increasing over time. This year we've had, or actually in 2015, we had over 180,000 unique visits.
Wow,
To give you any idea, we get
wow.
about 2,000 or so page views a day. And then I said there's 180,000 unique, but 18,000 were returning last year. And then this year it's about, we're right on track to probably go about a third over that, I'd say.
I am jealous. You know what? I took out my phone while you were presenting, and I typed in biotech careers into Google, and it came up first on the list. Your site.
Cool.
That's pretty good. That's really good. Okay, thanks. Let me jump to another question. You mentioned links to education programs at community colleges and two-year institutions. Are there links to 4 years as well?
Not
Graduate
not
programs?
at this time. Well, actually, if there are 4-year programs that are part of BioLink, then I think we have links to them.
Yeah, right.
But it's something that it's the thing about websites is they're never done, and we're not going to
Yes.
put one of those goofy construction
Good.
icons on there.
Good.
But
I
we're,
appreciate
we're
that.
always, as new programs become part of the BioLink network and community, we're always updating the site and adding links to those.
I have one more question in this time period. Well, actually, two. Um, if you want to get into the pharma world, can you come in as an associate, um, or do you need something like an MS in biotech to really get into that pharmaceutical world?
You can definitely come in as an associate. In fact, I think a lot of the early biotechnology education programs started because the pharmaceutical industry wanted people with hands-on experience. And so they
Hmm.
worked with they worked with the colleges on the in Boston and in New Hampshire to, you know, help people help the colleges understand what kinds of hands-on skills that students needed to work in those jobs. So no, definitely with a 2-year degree. In fact, even high
Okay.
school, they could be working in media kitchens and glass wash and areas like that.
If they're 18 or older.
Yeah, yeah. Although sometimes you can find internships even for younger students,
Hmm.
though not necessarily in companies.
Okay. Last question. In my experience comes more from the advanced manufacturing side, where some of the companies are requiring students to submit applications via LinkedIn. Is that true in biotech as well, or is it not necessarily the case?
It really depends on the company. I think a lot of companies like students to have resumes on LinkedIn because they can look at those resumes and they can see, well, they can often see if there are other people they know that student.
Hmm.
They can also get a feeling for have the instructors endorse that student, have other people endorse students for skills. And I think that's a really powerful thing. I mean, I think LinkedIn is pretty useful. The most important thing about LinkedIn, though, is not to treat it like your personal family communication.
Right,
I'm going to post pictures of my cat kind of area.
right, right,
You have to
right.
treat it as a professional environment and speak and post information accordingly, like spell check, things like that.
Yes, yes. Okay, good. We're perfectly on time. Sandy, why don't you go ahead and tell us more about the site?
Okay, thanks, Mike. A couple other things I want to be sure that I mention about biotech careers is that we have also a few articles that we've written over the years, and we have internship listings as well. For the articles, we have tried to highlight things that might be important for students when looking for jobs. And also we have some things that contributions from teachers as well. So we have information about how to search for an internship online, um, making a resume in LinkedIn, for example, using LinkedIn a little bit further and working with your network with LinkedIn. We have information about stories about doing informational interviews, about biotechnology in different areas, about deciphering some of the words like what does it mean to have good communication skills? And some of those articles, I should mention, were written by Sean Maiden, who is a graduate from the graduate from the Shoreline Community College BioLink program, who is out, has been working full time for a year now at Fred Hutch. And then we have some information about online resources. So what other sites could you go to if you want to know what people get paid in different parts of the country? So here's an example, the article about the online resources for salary information. And in this article, I wrote about the Bureau of Labor Statistics and how you can use the data at the Bureau of Labor Statistics site to get an idea what people get paid in different parts of the country. I also done some research with one of the job search sites, so I was posting that and how demand goes up and down at different times of the year. With the internship tools, we specifically focused here on internships for undergraduate students and specifically community college students, internships for faculty, because we know sometimes that community college or faculty who are working in a workforce-oriented program, it's really useful for them to be able to go back and work for a little while in a company so they can see what's going on and they can improve their own skills and they can see what things have changed and what people are doing and what they need. And then we also have some internships for high school students because we saw this as kind of a neglected area. Were there any more questions before I go on?
While you're talking, which is fine. That's perfect. One of our participants wondered if there is plans to incorporate a search function on the site. There isn't one now, as far as we can tell.
Right. Um, so we have the three search functions. Yeah, we are thinking about a global search function. I'm
Right.
guessing that's probably what you mean. Yeah,
Yes.
and I'll show you some sneak previews of the next version of the site in a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
Why don't you just go
Um,
ahead and let's go into the next phase.
okay. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about teachers who are using the site in their classes. Uh, there's Julie Rees, who is a national board certified teacher from Abraham Lincoln High School in San Francisco. So in our Teaching with Biotech Careers article, she describes that she has students read about a job area, read about 5 careers that fit in that, pick one and find the salary. And then she has some worksheets. There's links that you can use to download those from that page that she has students fill out and then post around the room so they can share that information. Some other teacher case studies that I've gathered here. One is a guy named Adam Waltzer at Eastside Preparatory School in Washington. He has students read about the careers, and then they have kind of a quote unquote cocktail party where, well, I'm guessing they probably have apple juice or something because it is a high school, but they have to go around and be in that role and describe to other students in the class about what it's like to work in that job. His rationale for doing that is that he says students are going to have to learn how to make small talk, and they're going to have to learn about what they do during the day. And by trying to see themselves in that role and describe what it's like to work in that job, it gives them a chance to practice talking to people and not texting, and to also it makes them think about the job a little bit more if they're trying to see, okay, what's it like if I do it? What am I doing? What do I like? How does this work? A couple other people who use the site who've shared their experiences. One is Jennifer Lazar at Anderson High School in Austin, Texas, and she described having students research the careers, and then she also has them go to the National Center for Education Statistics to look at the programs that offer that training to see what does it cost to go to those schools, what's the average graduation time, and to research the programs a little bit more. Dr. Linnea Fletcher has some ideas about doing a similar thing because she really is interested in our upgrading the site, you might say, to make it more of a tool for lifelong learning so that students could use and job seekers could use the site beyond high school and beyond a bachelor's degree and beyond when they're getting their first jobs in biotech. She also wants students to be able to speak knowledgeably about a lot of the biotech programs in the country and see the kinds of amazing things that they have to offer. So I'd like to take a minute now and ask those of you that teach with careers or do some kind of career education, if you could share something about what you're doing. You can post your answer there in the chat area.
You know, while they're typing, because it'll take a moment for people to put their responses in, I'll throw another question at you.
Okay.
Do you have, and this was a good one, is there any sort of feed out of your site, one of these RSS things, or maybe some sort of listserv that lets subscribers know? I don't think you have that function yet. Are you planning that? You can sign up to get updates or something, because obviously content and job and things like that are going to change here quickly. It'd be interesting if people could get a flash notification or a feed or something like that. Do you have any ideas or plans for that?
I think that's a really good idea. What we do right now is we do share new information about the site through the BioLink newsletter. And to subscribe to that newsletter, right now you have to go to the biolink.org site. It's bio-link.org. But it would be good to have a subscription link on the Biotech Careers site and probably an option to subscribe just to Biotech Careers, if that's so that you're not trying to wade through all the things that we have going on.
Sure.
We also have a Twitter account. It's bio_link.org, where we post things, and we do post things in the BioLink Facebook group. Now, I have to warn you, if you go to Facebook and type BioLink, that might not be what you want to see. It's actually better to go to the BioLink site and click the link to Facebook to get directly to our group.
I think I might know what you mean there, yeah.
Yeah, the Kardashians are really no help.
I see.
I have to tell you.
Okay, so let's look at people's ideas here. There's someone suggesting bringing in guest speakers from industry. Another suggesting use industry presenters, like for an activity or something like that. And I like this one, Sandy. asking students to research local companies and then come and present to the class what they find. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, yeah. I've actually, when I was teaching biotech, I found that to be very helpful too. And I think sometimes that's a nice thing also because the students that are taking a career exploration class, well, they might go apply for jobs at those companies. So if everybody is working together to build a school knowledge base, you can say, about area companies, it can save them their own, a little bit of time on their own researching all these companies by themselves.
Sure. And
So
then using this, yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say, I think they find that to be very helpful.
And then also, I'm not sure, I think there are a number of colleges that use, a seminar format or special projects or special topics, whatever you want to call it, uh, where these industry people come in. That seems to be a little theme running in the chat, is bring the industry folks in, help students work directly with them or with the companies.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing too. I used to do that as much as possible, and then always especially bring the graduates,
Right,
students who have graduated from your program who are working in industry to come back and talk about it.
right. So those are good suggestions from our audience. Why don't you go ahead into your next presentation and let me switch out of the Q&A format. That'll reduce the size of the chat window a little bit, give you a little bit more room for your presentation. So you can go ahead now.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Well, so we've talked a lot about the site as it is right now. We recently did a survey to find out what people thought about the site and what they thought they found was working, what they'd like to see. So now I want to spend a moment and talk about the road ahead. Um, we realized from the survey results that, as some of you have commented, that it would be nice to have some kind of notification service or something that would tell them when new items were posted. Because right now, for posting a new item in an area, unless you go to that area and you've memorized all the existing things, you might not know what's new, and you might not know that new things have been are now available. We have heard from people that they would like more regional data. They would like to know, okay, there's these jobs, but what kinds of jobs would I find in St. Louis? Or what kinds of jobs might I find in Jacksonville, Florida, as opposed to what kinds of jobs are there across the whole entire United States? They would also like to know a little bit more about regional salary data. So what would you be getting paid in this job if you were in San Francisco versus what might you be getting paid in this job if you were working in Minneapolis? So we're looking at how we can respond and incorporate that information. We're also looking at ways that we can put in more information about career pathways. So if a student wants to end up managing a research and development laboratory at a company like Genetic Systems, for example, how would they go about preparing for that position? What kinds of certificates would they need? And what kind of pathway would they take to get there? Because we want to do what we can to make this a really good tool for getting people information about planning their educational process. We also want to make the site have a more consistent look and feel with BioLink, and we realized about 40% of our users, well, maybe not quite that much because a lot of classes use the site too, but we do have a lot of people who use the site from their phone. So we want to make sure that the mobile experience is really good and it works well on a phone. So here's a sneak preview of what the new site is going to look like. And I think we probably will have a search box up in the the top right-hand corner. But you can see we'll keep all the things that we have that people like and that we have now, with articles and careers and internships and job areas and photos and stuff. But we have, you might notice we have a map, which I'll go to in a minute. We have the same tools for exploring jobs by salary and education and skills. We have our students, our terms, our videos, and we have this What's New box where new things that get posted on the site are going to show up in that area. So if you come to the site, you'll be able to see right away, all right, what's new? And we have a sticky function so that new photojournals, we'll put those at the top and have those stay there for a little while so you'll be able to see those. So I want to drill into the map here for a moment. So we have been working on building a database of biotechnology companies. When I took this picture, we had almost 3,600. And what you can do with what you will be able to do with this database is you'll be able to filter by job area. You'll also be able to drill down and click links to different parts of the country to see how many jobs there are in biotech in different areas. And you can see right now, if we're just looking at biotech as a whole, and the database isn't complete right now, that California, you can see San Francisco had 682 at this time and 602 in San Diego, and the Boston area had 1,160. So you can kind of get an idea about what are the hot spots in biotech in the country. If I drill down, things separate out a little bit. And actually what I did on this slide that I forgot is I was trying to search by business area. So, and we'll have these terms more visible too, so you can get an idea what the searches are. But I searched by, I just put in the word anti, so I was looking for antibodies. And I could see that there were like 12 companies that have anti in their description in Seattle, and 44 in San Francisco, and 2 or 4 here in Texas, and different parts of the country, and 36 on the East Coast. If I continue and drill down, I would get to the individual companies, and if I were to click one of those links, I would have a link that would take me to the company. So I could get a link to their website. I could see this one does have its core activity as antibodies. And if I were to click antibodies, then I could get, actually, I'll show you where that is if I go back for a minute. If I were to click antibodies or that link to their core activity, I would get a list of companies that had that term as their core activity. So that is one way that we can search a little bit more. It's a little bit of a better search and gives you an idea about what kinds of things are happening in different parts of the country. Do I have questions right now?
I've got a couple questions for you and a comment too. Several people commented they thought that idea of your happy hour where you force the students to talk to each other and not text to each other, that was just an amazingly good idea. So we like that one, Sandy. Also, that little app, if that's the right thing, that you use to do the TLAs, the 3-letter acronyms. Where did that come from? Is that yours or is that somebody else's?
No, that's a company called Quizlet, and Quizlet was started by a high school student who wanted to make flashcards for himself, but wanted to put them online and share them with his friends. And so I think he's probably in college now, or maybe, I don't know, maybe he skipped college altogether. But he started this when he was 17, and a lot of teachers use this. So they can set up their own Quizlet accounts, and they can make lists of terms and definitions, and then send out emails to their students, and their students can log in and practice. So it's an educational tool.
That's cool. I've got a couple of questions. I think I'll reserve those to when we get to the end. We'll launch our survey, and while the survey's on, we can wrap up with a couple of more questions. Why don't you take us forward?
Okay. So we have a lot of different things on biotechcareers.org, but we don't actually have a lot of staff. And so we're always looking for students and instructors and people who would like to work with us on the site, and we would be happy to recognize you. So if you're an instructor and you have curriculum or you have strategies that you use, we'd love to be able to put those in articles and, put your name there, right? So you can count it as a publication. Or if you have worksheets that people could download. We would love to have classes help us with checking the databases in your area. This is going to be what you can think of it almost like a crowdsourced project, because the better the data that we can get in, the better the database will be for everybody. So we would love to get classes all over the country participating and checking some of that data, providing us information about companies that are missing, and we would incorporate that information into the databases, and we would recognize your class and your students on the site. So we could say, this area, thanks, help thanks to this group, or thanks to this class at this college or this high school. So we would really love to have your help. And you can, if you're interested, please contact me, Sandy at biolink.org. So
This is a good
that would,
idea to build a student's resume, because then they could have on their
yeah,
resume as they go into a job application that they were a contributor or whatever. It's a good idea.
right. Yeah, and as as Trish mentioned, the students are already doing some of this research often, right? So
Right.
why not put that into a tool that could be shared with everybody, and the students could get some credit for doing that. So I think, we would really like that. I think we would all benefit.
Why don't you ask us the question on this slide, and I think this is going to be a fun one. Help us pick our next webinar topic for BioLink, rank the topics. Yeah, we should be careful here. We're going to get all kinds of answers. I guess we could put in other ideas beyond these things too, right? I know what I'm going to put
Yep.
in. CRISPR. I want to know more
Okay.
about CRISPR. So does the world, apparently.
All right. So this webinar is one of a series that is featuring BioLink and areas where BioLink has worked or BioLink has expertise or people that we can draw on and recruit to come talk. And so we thought we should we should put some of the things that we're really known for and knowledgeable about. So yeah, we'd like to know what would you like to see next? So we're going to be doing a lot more of these.
Oh, Sandy, what's course in a box? Give me a short version of
Oh
what a
yeah.
course in a box is.
Well, so many of us have been teaching biotech for a long time and have developed expertise in different areas. And we also know that when you start teaching a new topic like quality regulations or laboratory math or um, safety, right? Working with hazardous materials, even if you get a textbook, that doesn't mean that you really know how to teach it. So, or what to do or where to start. So we developed Course in a Box as a way to help instructors jumpstart their educational programs by getting materials and seeing how it's organized by people who are experienced in teaching those areas. So we have detailed syllabi, we have sometimes videos of classroom discussions, we have um, information about assessments. So actually, this is something we do check. We do a not background check, but we do check that you are an instructor because we don't want students, as much as we can anyway. We want to try to avoid giving students access to this. Um, so yeah, we have 6 different courses, and people have found them pretty useful.
I bet. Well, Sandy, you've got a bunch of ideas in there. Lots of folks voting for stem cells, incubators, CRISPR. It's going to be an interesting set of webinars coming up.
Great, thanks.
Let's encourage people to keep putting their ideas in. Why don't you go ahead into your summary slide?
Okay, so yeah, before we wrap up, we are going to have an evaluation slide at the end, so
Don't go
don't log
away.
off just
Right.
yet. But you know how to find now how to find biotechcareers.org. We are very responsive to suggestions. You can find a lot of related information at biolink.org. I mentioned our newsletter. There are links that you can sign up at BioLink. There's also links there to our Facebook group, our Flickr account, our Twitter account. We're also on LinkedIn. We've got about 5,000 people in our group on LinkedIn. We will be doing more of these webinars, but in the meantime, if you want to learn more about BioLink and get kind of an overview of the 20 years and what BioLink has done in that time, We have archived our first webinar, and on the BioLink site there is a link to find that archived webinar. There is also, before I forget, I saw somebody was asking about that careers in biotechnology publication. I think that was last updated about, oh, maybe 7 years ago. But if you want to get it, you can find it by going to the BioLink site. At the bottom of the homepage, there is a sitemap, and there is a link that says publications, and you can go to that publications page and download it from the site. I should mention too, we are going to have a conference that's June 7th through 10th in San Francisco. I think you might still be able to, yeah, actually, I'm pretty sure you can register if you do it really quick. Okay, so from the BioLink site, there'll be a link to that. And I just want to see if there's any more questions before we go to the evaluation.
You know what, Sandy, let me put up the survey link for folks, and then I've got a few more questions for you, whether they can dual task here while we do that. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and launch the survey. Folks, this survey should open in a separate window for you, but sometimes on a Macintosh that doesn't always happen. So you can actually have to click on the survey link yourself. Sandy, most everyone is looking at the survey and responding to it right now while we do this. A couple of final questions. Several queries came in the chat box about graduate programs. Are there recommendations? Are there links? What can one find out about PhD and MS type of programs on the site? Is there anything yet?
We don't have much on the biotech careers site about graduate programs, but we do have some colleges that have become part of the BioLink network that offer graduate programs in biotechnology. And if you were to go to biolink.org and look at, let me see.
Oh, she's going there herself, yeah.
Yeah, I am.
That's good.
I am. I'm trying to think about the best way to get there. If you were to go to biolink.org, we have a link to degrees and certificates. And on that page, we have definitions of what the degrees and certificates are, and we have little icons that show things. We do have post-baccalaureate certificates and master's degree programs, not PhDs, but master's for sure. And if you were to pick a topic in one of those, like say, bioinformatics, at the bottom of the page, you would have a listing of colleges that are part of the BioLink network, and you could see if they offer what kind of degrees they offer. So for bioinformatics, for example, you'd see that Johns Hopkins University, which is part of the BioLink network, offers a master's in bioinformatics. So it gives you an idea about programs that are offering higher level options.
Okay, good. Thank you for doing that. One more question, and then we'll get to wrapping this up. Your timing was so good today and such an excellent presentation. On the internships, can you search by level on those internships? Suppose you have an associate's degree or a master's degree. Obviously, you'll be vying for a different level of internship. How does that work?
Yeah, our internships have mainly focused on high school, faculty, and community college. I am guessing if you look at the community college options, many of the places that offer internships for community college students are also might also offer internships for students at with more advanced backgrounds. I'm not sure what kinds of internships there are for graduates. There are so many things that could be cataloged. I do think that actually some of those sites that are job aggregator sites, like Indeed.com and Simply Hired, the things that we link to from our career pages,
Yes.
some of those do have internship filters. So that might be a place to go too, I think.
Okay. Well, in terms of That takes us to the end of officially the end of our webinar today. And folks, just to remind you that you will get a link to this recording and the slides and all the variety of resources that Sandy talked about. Sandy, I know I've mentioned this to you before, but I think what you've done here with biotech-careers.org is just so comprehensive that our group here in the Maricopa system is looking at adopting the style and the approach into our advanced manufacturing program. So I just wanted to make that comment. Already I see this being implemented beyond the biotechnology world. It's just so complete. So we appreciate that effort. I don't know how you've done this with the small number of people you have working on it. That's my biggest question. So you probably don't
Lots of
have an
help.
answer. Yeah, yeah. Lots of weekends and nights, but anyhow. Sandy, if somebody wanted to do this in another area, let's suppose I'm working on automotive technology and I'd like to develop a site like that mimics biotechcareers.org, where do they start? I mean, where do you get all this content? Just give us suppose I wanted to start, give us a 2-minute version of how I would do it.
I would say we were really fortunate to be able to use the careers in biotechnology as a jumping point.
Yes.
Okay. But what I would probably do is I'd probably go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics and see how they're organizing titles for jobs. I would also look at job ads, and I would probably try to contact people from a lot of programs, a lot of advanced technology education programs. It's not just biotech, but a lot of them do have advisory boards. So they might work with their industry to get a list of the job titles that are out there and get help with describing them.
Sure, sure. That strikes me as one of the challenges is getting that content to describe these careers. I mean, you've got this wonderful organization of the site, but getting that content obviously is the challenge.
Well, it helped a lot with biotech that I've been involved with it for quite a long time, and other people I know. So there were a lot of people to draw on. And then, of course, with BioLink, we get information from all over the country about what people are doing and
Sure,
how they do it. So
sure.
we get a lot of feedback.
Okay, here's the last question for today, and then we'll wrap up. You mentioned the fellows, summer fellows, June 7 through 10. Where is that going to be?
That's going to be in Berkeley. It's at the Clark Kerr Center, and it's a wonderful experience. It's not a large group. There'll be maybe less than 100 people that
Yes.
are staying in kind of a dormitory style place. I know one of our co-PIs, Jeanette, calls it a monastery, and people get to know each other really well. It's informal. We have lunch and breakfast and dinner together, and it's a really great place to find out a lot about what people are doing, how they're getting funding, how they're recruiting students, what they're teaching, and new interesting things to teach about, and kind of where the industry is going.
And I see that I'm on the BioLink homepage right now, and under current and upcoming events, there's the link to the BioLink Summer Fellows Program. So for those of us online who'd like to follow that up, we just go to BioLink and then current and upcoming events. Sandy, that officially brings us to the end of this, to me, very fascinating webinar. I've learned a lot. I want to apply some of the things I've learned today here in our own college system. So I wanted to thank you not only for presenting today, but for the great organization and the very fascinating presentation. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Friends, that officially ends our webinar today. I'm going to turn off the recording. I'm going to close the survey. Thank you for being part of that, and we look forward to you participating in the next of the webinar series. We've got a bunch of ideas, Sandy, for what's coming up next, so we're looking forward to that. Thanks, everyone, and goodbye.